So now we can badmouth Carl since he's not even editing. He won't even ever hear this.
That's crazy. He won't even know. He won't even know.
Won't even know.
Unless Danny just like
Dan's like, you
drops
know
the raw.
Dan's like, y'all been pissing me off lately. Y'all don't organize. Sorry, here you go.
I don't even say thank you when I do this. You know what? I would just air everybody's business out. We can air it out at homes.
They opened up a little small track in Danville called the Dixie Speedway, and they wanted to get some black drivers, and they thought they didn't know who to approach, so they went to the police department to find out what black guys had speeding records, things like that. So they told them they want somebody to drive a race car to see me. So that's how I started racing.
As Matt told us earlier, trying to become the first African-American driver since Willie T. Ribbs and join Randy Bethea and the great Wendell Scott.
He did he drove the car exactly what the car wanted him to do. He got out early. It looked like a little tight, but he kept in the throttle and he got a good lap. And wow, way to go!
There you go.
Woo-hoo. That's it.
That man, Tony Schumacher, wins. He is the champion for an 8th time. But Antron Brown, if Tony Schumacher loses, becomes the first African-American to win an NHRA title. 376, Antron Brown is the top fuel champion.
These need to be the best 7 laps of Darrell Wallace Jr.'s life.
That was a good first part of it right there.
Turn number 4, Darrell Wallace Jr. is going to get his first win in the Camping World Truck Series. His final time through 3 and 4. He's going to do it. Bubba Wallace wins at Kansas.
Ready. What they gonna say now, baby? Let's go!
Record is equals. Lewis Hamilton wins the Turkish Grand Prix and is a 7-time champion of the world.
Get in there, Lewis. What a way to do it, mate. What a way to win your 7th world title.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Victory Lane Vibes. We are your hostesses with the mostesses. It's me, it's Jerry. We have Arthur, we have Danny, and we have a first-time guest to the Vibes. Little do y'all know, he was actually a pillar and our namesake and lots of other things. But we have Phil and Espanol, NASCAR Twitter's uncle, great uncle, step uncle, the goat.
The grunkle.
The
Phil's
grunkle.
here.
The drunk uncle. No, never mind.
See, live and direct. We have Phil. As tradition goes, Phil, since you're a guest here for the first time, explain yourself. Tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, wow.
When did you get in NASCAR? Who was your favorite driver? When you first got here? Give us the rundown.
All right. Well, let's see. I've been a NASCAR fan about 27 years. I think next year will be year 27. My first favorite driver was Jeff Gordon. I think I got into NASCAR mostly through like Hot Wheels cars or, basically just little kid stuff. And my parents kind of were happy that I was able to get into something. I tried playing basketball and things and other sports, but really the only thing I really enjoyed like watching or doing competitively was racing. So, I would say I raced go-karts a lot, but it was more of those little, go-karts that had, like the 50cc engines in the back or whatnot. Nothing competitively where, I could have been a NASCAR driver, but I knew when I was maybe about 10 or 11 years old that I wanted to have some form of job within motorsports. And through my teenage years and all the way till currently, that idea had always changed. I used to want to be like a pit crew member. And then when I got to college, it was, oh, well, maybe I can do motorsports journalism. And then as social media has developed, getting into doing social media for Front Stretch and, other little NASCAR things here and there kind of got me to this point. So
That's awesome. It's always good. And I enjoy hearing how people got to NASCAR because, as we've talked about a million times, you're black. What do you mean you like NASCAR?
Right.
Well, all they do is go in circles. Well, no,
Yeah.
not really. Don't do that. That's not how this works.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean that was a thing when I was growing up. Like there were only maybe I'll say when I was in high school there was maybe one other kid that liked NASCAR, and that kid that was actually a white kid. Now all my other black friends they'd be like, "Oh, why aren't you into basketball? Why aren't you concentrating on football?" And I played football in high school. But even at that, I knew I had no options of, doing anything past that. But, it was just something that I got into when I was a little kid. And, I just never let it go. So that was, I have a lot of black people that still do ask me, what are you seeing? And all they do is turn left or, and then they always ask that dumb question of, do they pee in the race car? And it's like, why don't you come to a race, find out, get all these answers to your questions. And I'll say, in the few years, Bubba's been in Cup, which it doesn't feel like it's been almost 8 years almost, but, I hear more people like, oh, it looks lit at a NASCAR race. And it's like, oh, didn't you like almost threaten to kick my ass in high school because I like this? So it's always, I'm always curious too when I meet other, black people that like motorsports. And I think that's why our group gets, as close as we are, because we're a rare group, but we all found each other and we found each other organically. So that's one of the things that I'm happy about too.
Organically / through Bonte.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Bonte, I'll say, and he's not here to defend himself. So
Good.
I'm not going to say
Good.
anything bad about him, but Bonte, I remember when he first started following me and getting to know him, I've met him through one of the little DoorDash Bubba chats that they had maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And, we just kind of became friends through that. And then we had another group chat prior to, when the black group chat got together. I don't, that's what we'll call it, the black group chat, the black racing group chat. Yes. Trademark.
TV friendly version.
TV friendly.
That is the best way of putting it. But when he invited me to that, and then just getting to know y'all, that was, Bonte brings, I will say, for every other little fault that he may have sometimes, Bonte is good at getting people together to, make something happen, or, get together on like trying to, vote Bubba into something. He's good at, he's good at getting people together, but also good at, moving the needle when you need somebody to say something. So,
man,
Yep.
I hope you're blushing at this, Bonte. You're getting a lot of praise right now. You definitely don't deserve it, but you're getting a lot of praise.
That's the nicest we've talked about Bonte on this show
This whole year.
Yeah, don't worry. I mean, if y'all need me to, and post, I can say some other messed up stuff. Y'all need me to.
That would be more work for me, but that would be fun. I might take you up on that.
I think it's kind of funny and interesting you said that you've got a 27-year fandom that started off of the Hot Wheels or the tiny the 164 cars. And so, like, Lionel, if you're listening, man, you gotta get in the stores. Gotta get in the grocery store. Gotta get in the Target. I went to Target the other day. They only had like 3 cars, and they were like back behind something else. I'm like, a kid would never find this. Like, I'm a grown 6 foot tall man. I can't find this. A kid who's like 4 foot is never gonna find this. And I think that just kind of speaks to how like easy it can be for like a passion to get sparked at a young age through something like a toy diecast. And we've talked off air with Phil about like the importance of merchandising and stuff like the diecast. And it's just, I think that's just is another great example of, that diecast probably cost what, 40 cents to make. How much money has NASCAR gotten out of Phil in the 27 years? That ROI on that has got to be insane. So I just find that really interesting.
Yeah, and like you say, we've talked about it, internally. Just the offerings aren't as good as when we were kids. Like when I was a little kid, I remember we had little cars. They were like, it would be for like the most random too. Like it would be like you could buy some shampoo, and if the sponsor was in NASCAR, they included a little car. And it's like, why is this attached to a shampoo bottle? Oh, I don't care. I'll give it to my child. And then through that, you build and you see what they like. And for me, my favorite thing was going to Toys R Us and maybe finding a 164 somewhere, or a one of the bigger 124s, the Racing Champions ones. Picking one of those out, but they would have almost every driver available. Now, as we see, everything with Lionel, and it seems like, the only things that are getting produced are Hendrick cars, or, the older, the older race twins that they're coming out with, which are somewhat not historically correct. But, that is what it is. But it's all about kind of exposing racing to kids, younger kids and stuff. They continually say, oh, we want to get that, we want to get kids when they're young to fall in love with the sport. But when the NFL has a jersey for everybody, or you can customize a jersey for everybody, same with baseball and basketball, whereas NASCAR, only the top guys are getting, merch or things made for them. How's that supposed to feel to some kid that maybe likes, a back marker driver that, back in the day, everybody got a t-shirt, and now it's, just slim pickings, or you better hope that the design is good, or a driver sells stuff on their own instead of waiting on a team, because NASCAR is not going to do it. And it's infuriating, but, I guess that's the price of business today.
Which is trifling. NASCAR, once again, if you're listening, listen to the people. We can fix it. We can fix it. Well then, with that, let's dive in, shall we? Just because it's on the front of my mind. Faction 46 came out of nowhere reasonably. It was a great profile picture on Twitter saying NASCAR's newest truck team. I know all of us were bewildered as to, well, what do you mean? Who are you? Where'd you come from? Where's the money? Come to find out, it's apparently Richard Petty's new project, and grandson, is that his grandson? Thad Moffitt is going to be driving the 46 truck next year. For Faction 46, didn't have this on my 2023 NASCAR Truck Series bingo calendar, but I guess it makes sense with the bowing out of GMS that there would be another Chevrolet team, or a few, to take those spots. What y'all think of the new truck team?
I'm curious. we've certainly spilled, I say spilled a lot of ink, perhaps that expended lots of carbon dioxide, given that this is a vocal format, on certainly the quality of racing and driving in the truck series at large. So, while I certainly don't expect one singular team to turn that around immediately, I think it's a curious installation. I'm interested to see how it goes. Now part of that is with Moffat being Petty's grandson, the whole uh, he will have to work very hard to beat the nepo baby allegations, and the very thought of that makes me almost violently ill. But um, it's we're talking, way out, pie in the sky predictions. It could be fine. It could end up being absolutely nothing. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, I felt like this was a lot of hoopla very suddenly for a team. And, to Jared's point in the intro, that there was not any kind of fanfare, I guess, leading up to it. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this new team. It's a big thing. I'm excited that, a Petty will be racing in NASCAR still. I think it's always really cool to have the names of like a Petty, like a Earnhardt still racing in the Cup Series or in the NASCAR Series. Um, but if I look at it name aside, I feel like that doesn't necessarily spark a lot of enthusiasm in terms of on track. Um, I don't remember seeing him in any Cup Series races this year. Am I wrong about that? I don't remember him racing in anything. I think the last time I've saw him was 2022. I feel like he might have been in a truck for a few races. So I have very low expectations for a guy to come in. I don't think he's going to come in and set the world on fire, but it's a good experiment. And yeah, I think it could be a fantastic story, or it could be a train wreck. If you're not that in that top 10 in the truck series, you're really fighting for your life. So I don't want to expect too much and then see this car be in a heat 20 times a season. I hope it's not that case, but I think it's cool. It's really interesting to see. And like I said, hopefully they have some success, but it's just very out of the blue. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, oh, this is really happening. It's getting a lot of fanfare with no build up to it.
Yeah, I believe that the last thing he's been racing, I know he made a few ARCA starts this year, and I know he's done some Trans Am racing as well. I think Trans Am 2, but honestly, it seemed when they announced that Richard Petty had a a big thing coming down the line, everybody's like, oh, does this mean he's moving away from legacy and creating his own cup team again, or what is it? And then you get the alert that it's something involving like when they announced everything through, I guess, Eric Estep that day, when they announced everything, and then it all started feeling like it was coming together, that it was that. And then to see that, it was like, oh, okay, so this is basically a and I don't even want to say a nepo baby situation, but in a way it's given off the makings of that. Like, it's just kind of like they're like, oh, okay, we can get money out of Richard for this, and then we can we'll use that for a year maybe. It's to me it doesn't seem like it's a long-term thing for that, whereas maybe it's a stopgap until next year, when maybe there's a better crop of free agents or another kid from ARCA that's ready to step up, that they can do that. Or because we know so little about what they're doing, could it be down the road they plan on having 2, 3, 4 trucks like a Door Sport or someone a team like that? And I guess the jury is still going to be out, and I guess we'll figure out once we get to Daytona. But like Art said, you don't want to see that truck in the wall, 25 out of how many races. I don't even think they run 25 races, but whatever the number is, I think it's 24. But I don't want to keep repeatedly seeing that, but hey, that's their choice to go with that. I hope the best for him, but from everything that I've seen in other series, I want to kind of temper my expectations for him and be pleasantly shocked if he does end up doing good.
So one of my things that was pondering about the situation, it seems like they have the family colors, and the logos and everything, but it's interesting that why wouldn't he call it RPM, or why wouldn't he name the team after Richard if it's Richard's money? More seemingly so than Chevrolet's, just because of everything that went down at Legacy. Why wouldn't you, to attract business partners, sponsors, affiliates, why not just use the family name if everybody can read between the lines and see that's what it is?
Yeah, I wonder if that's like maybe there's like a trademark thing or something that like Legacy gained the rights to, like the RPM name or something. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm just thinking out loud. Like there could be something that even though they're not actively using it, like they have the exclusive rights. And so they had to go out and come up with this completely different name. And then they figured, well, they can't own the colors. So that's the closest thing we can have to that brand identity, is to go with those petty colors. So that could be it. I mean, I personally don't like that name. I think it sounds kind of terrible, but you know what? Hey, it's their money. If they're happy with it, then God bless.
It honestly sounds like a wrestling group.
Yes.
I mean, they do call them factions in wrestling, but it just sounds like they tried to be edgy. It almost sounds like a Chat GPT situation.
Yes.
Where they were like, Chat GPT, we have the number 46. Give us race team names. And I feel like that was one like right on top of the pile, but who knows?
Yeah, to be fair, when when I initially heard, the announcement, all of the build up, my brain thought it was yet another Cup Invitational car. I'm like, oh my God, who is it now? It was actually my exact thought. And then it turns out it's a truck. I'm like, oh, well, that's certainly, that is the most name of all time.
Certainly a choice, for sure. It's definitely a choice. Yeah, so that was front of mind. I had to bring that to y'all. And more exciting news, Toyota did what they said they were going to do, and we have a new Camry body for 2024. I brought this up on Twitter. Toyota definitely redesigned that Camry for NASCAR. If you just see the nose, and granted the Prius is fire, the Crown not so much, but you see the design elements and the new Camry. But truly, I think they went full send on their new design language to help with things like super speedway races. I think I asked on the pod channel, what's the over under on the new body? I think people did say over 6.5 wins next year. Probably see 9, if not more, personally. I love it. What do y'all think? Pros, cons, yay, nay? New Cup card?
Yeah, I mean, I see so much discord on Twitter about how it looks and this or that and the nose and the headlights. Personally, I think it looks ugly as sin, but I don't care. Like I just don't care as long as it's fast. Like it could look like a brick with 90-degree corners, but if it can draft and it can go fast on a racetrack, that's all I care about. So I'm gonna try to hold out some judgment until I see the full fleet, because I've only seen the one Camry that's in a full paint scheme. They had sort of the show cars, but they haven't had a full paint scheme yet. So I'm gonna hold off some judgment. But again, like guys, as long as it wins, it can look real pretty. It can look real ugly in victory lane, and like I'm all for it. But I will be a little bit sad just because I personally really like the now last gen Camry look. Um, I just felt like that looked like a really cool race car, which is selfishly all I want them to look like. I want them to look fast and look cool from my perspective. And so far, the new one doesn't scratch that itch for me. But again, if it's fast, who cares? I mean, I'm sure it's going to get cheated up a bunch anyway. So as long as it gets the job done, that's what's most important to me.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm one of the people that I'll say that I like it. It reminds me so much of like to me, and this is after I saw it with the what was that? The Advent Health Scheme for the 43. Yeah. When I saw that on it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm more sold on it. I was one of the earlier defenders when the original photos started coming out, and all you heard, it was just basically like everybody started throwing tomatoes on Twitter. Like they just were throwing tomatoes the entire time. Uh, you know, uh, they were pissed off. They were like, "Oh, they've ruined the front end of the car." And then when they finally threw a real, paint scheme on there, it's just like, "Oh, okay, all right, this looks good." And it, like I say, it reminds me somewhat of like I guess the late '90s. I'm not sure if it's the Celica or the Supra, but I remember it was like one that used to run in like IMSA and stuff. I think it was like the Tom's Castrol car. I'm not sure if anybody else is familiar with that, but the front end of it really reminded me of that. And I was like, okay, this is almost like a throwback to, you know, the original Toyota racing. But, like you said, the the front end of it's I think, well, it's not. I don't even want to say, Jerry. I'm sorry. Like you said, Art. As long as the car,
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, as long as the car, runs up front, gets us super speedway wins. That car could be as ugly as a salvaged out Volvo, and I would sing its praises. So I'm excited for it, and I hope it brings Toyota more success where they can break up that little Ford train that's at the front of every super speedway race. So
Yeah, I think it's fine. I am probably one of the few people that are somewhat ambivalent about this car, truthfully. I like the outgoing car. I like the outgoing car quite a bit, actually. And I'm not necessarily sure that this is, an improvement per se. But regardless, and this is where, the little part of my brain that spent a number of years working in, OE capacities and developing parts kind of kicks in. If it's functional, then it doesn't matter. Uh, Truth be told. Um, and also to that in the fact that, because nobody buys midsize sedans anymore, they basically dusted off the existing chassis from the outgoing car and slapped new front and rear end on it and called it a day. It's a heavy facelift more than it is an all new model, and that can create some awkward proportions if you're not careful. So, as long as it's quick, it's fine. It definitely looks better, not as the show car. But I think anybody with even a lukewarm IQ could have figured that out, that it was going to look better in actual paint scheme. I don't get me wrong, I kind of like the effectively factory liveries, the test liveries, but no, certainly stock cars at least always look better when the teams actually get to go to town on them, and this is no different. So I am more interested, and I posted this on Twitter not too long after we saw the Advent Health car, as I would be curious to see what, particularly what JGR in 2311 cooks up for for these cars because they do a very good job and lots of very fun, very pretty schemes. So I said if anybody could make these cars look good, it would be them, 2311 particularly. So we'll see going forward, but I am much like I think all of you. I am more interested in seeing if this can break up the pack of Fords that always seem to filter to the front at super speedways.
Yeah, just as long as we don't have a Ream DeWalt double scheme for the 500 for Christopher Bell, I think everybody would be in agreement that the car is going to work. Sorry,
No,
Bonte.
go ahead, give him a double scheme. Give it to him, because you know why?
He could be in the back anyway.
Double schemes don't win. They don't win. Tell me one double scheme winner. I'll
I
wait.
think you got one, big dog. I
Wait,
think it's out there.
well, hold on. Would you consider, I guess, Stenhouse? But I don't know.
Kroger and whatever snack that he wants
Kroger
to have on his
food.
car. What was the what car won last year? Was it the Reese's car? Was it
No, it
Reese's and
wasn't.
Kroger?
I don't think it was Reese's.
I
you
think
sure?
it just might have been a regular Kroger car. The
Yeah,
more I
that's
think
crazy.
about it.
I'm looking it up now. It was the Cottonelle and Kroger.
Mm.
See, I don't consider these double schemes though. I consider this one scheme with two sponsors. Because you're not blending two paint schemes together.
So you really
Mm.
more like Ty when he had the Monster and Interstate car.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think was it.
Ty's paint that paint scheme was fire because he had the flat black for the Monster Energy, but he had all the green lightning for the Interstate. It's like that was the weekend that everybody ran it, but his was different because that's his. He's just Ty. He just does what he wants.
But yeah,
I mean,
he can go ahead and run that double scheme 36 weeks. I don't care. I'm fine with that. Help my cause.
It'll help my driver.
Right.
See you never.
Shots
Catch you on the weekends when it's by itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's now I still think, just me personally, Ford cheated making the dark horse. Like the way that the angles are on the fenders, they cheated. The Camry, as always, it's like it's angular, but it's more smooth. So I'm interested to see. I'm really excited for Daytona. I truly think this flat nose and being able to push everybody, but also being able to be in front for Toyota, it bodes well. Denny, if you're listening, if you would like to employ somebody in the 67 for the 500 again this year, please do. We need all the help we can get. Travis Pastrana drove his butt off last year, and we was this close. We was close, baby. So call him again. Call him one more time. Get him in the car. I don't know who else would be in the 67 for a super speedway race, but who else would?
Man.
Now since I brought it up, who else would go in there besides Travis? Because Kurt can't still, right? He still can't.
I think he's still. I mean, well, unless something's changed, they haven't announced anything different from him.
Kerr.
Go ahead and get Lewis Hamilton up in there. That's fine by me.
Oof.
I know that's the ultimate pipe dream.
You saw the conversation. There were communications between him and Denny.
I think the odds of Lewis in the car are high, but the odds of Lewis in the car at Daytona to start are astronomically higher.
Yeah,
plate racing
is tough.
Plate racing is a beast of its own that like nobody else really does. Not like NASCAR.
Well, you look at Toyota's lineup next year. Eric Jones is back. John Hunter Nemechek's back. So I mean, you have some valid pushers to wash away the trash of Martin Truex Jr. and Christopher Bell. So if the OEM orders get fired, I think Legacy and 2311 can get their act together and just hitch Denny on and just go for it. Personally, I mean, Ty's a decent plate racer. I feel like we didn't give Ty enough credit last year, but he drove a really clean season last year. Obviously, he didn't have any competition because his competition liked the meme and bowed himself out for the Rookie of the Year voting. But Ty he still ran well last year. Good job, Ty. We knew you had it in you. We saw the speed when you were 2311. We knew you could do it.
I like how this is just now the Ty gives praise hour. I don't know where that came
We love you, Ty. Even if you did bump in Eric Jones on purpose that one time.
Hey man, that's strengthening his case for me. That's helping the cause. What was Bubba call him? Tyrone what?
Tyrell.
Tyrell.
Definitely some deviant behavior going on, but hopefully we have
Tyrell.
a nice calm off season. Ty, don't go snowboarding, and
No extreme sports.
No extreme sports. We'll see you in Los Angeles for the Clash.
You know, Rick told the HMS boys to park it this off season.
Man,
Oh, he should have.
on the
There-
couch.
No extracurricular activities allowed.
He said you can walk from your bed to the simulator and back. That's all you get.
Why do you think Cal's trying to start a charter system for his dirt racing series? Hendrick said, don't you do it. Don't you do it. You sit at the computer. Yeah. You better not touch it. Edit and wish it good luck. You leave it right there.
Yeah. I'm just not gonna talk about Kyle Larson and computers. So.
And neither should he. That makes two of them.
Oh man. Speaking, we're gonna go down the road of worst kept secrets. AJ going back to Xfinity we all predicted it when he was boohoo crying when he won the Roval. I was like, the jig is up. I think he's tired of this, Grandpa. And Pollock agreed. He's like, yeah, let's send him back to his playground. So AJ's going to be back destroying the competition in Xfinity next year. Hemrick getting called up. He's coming back to Cup. I was kind of shocked by that. Were y'all? I was really surprised that he got the keys back.
Well, about AJ, I think I realized like earlier in the season when they would play like some of his audio during the races, and you could hear in his, just like in his demeanor that it didn't seem like this was exactly what he wanted to be doing, like racing on Sundays, and especially with how their runs, I would say in the early part of the season went. He wasn't really a factor on many of the road courses, I think, up until like Watkins Glen. But it just seemed like he felt like he was burdened, like, just like he had to pull up for both cars, because if you think about it, Haley really didn't run well, but a handful of races. And then once Haley signed that deal with RFK, that was almost like he fell off the face of the earth a bit. Except for a few chances late in the season, on like plate tracks or other places where it seemed like they might have had a notebook worth of information on for him. But for AJ, I think the stress of everything that went on, with his wife's pregnancy and now actively being a father, I think he kind of now sees, oh, okay, well, maybe I should somewhat cut back, or maybe I should make it where I'm available maybe a extra day out of the week, and I think that full-time grind, and like you'll even hear industry people even say it, that full-time grind of the Cup Series is, it's no joke. And he's done it, for over 10 years, even when he had his trouble at Penske and everything, he still has known that 36 or 38 race schedule. And I think he's just tired. But he also knows down in Xfinity, that seems where Colleague is more comfortable. And I mean, that's understandable as well, because they've been around longer there. And, I think he feels like he can still be competitive there. He can, dominate all different types of racetracks instead of just everybody looking at us on road courses and saying, oh, okay, we know the dinger will be up here for this. But when you get to, a Michigan or a plate race, they may be non-existent. So I think it's a good move for him, and it's a good move for the organization. I'm happy for Daniel Hemrick. I want to say he's competitive, and he's competitive. He was competitive in Xfinity. A few things got in the way, really, of having a lot of success. But at this point, I think he kind of is, in a way, aged out of Xfinity, where he can, where, you want to say, oh, give me more than just a season of this person in Cup. I want to see what he can do now that he's had that, situation of, okay, you've been demoted, but now you've earned your chance to come back. And, I think the sky's the limit, but we also don't know who the teammate's going to be over there. So we will see. And I think Colleague needs to get ready to kind of answer up on that.
Danny.
um, yeah, I'm certainly at this point in AJ's career, I'm not super surprised by this. I know a lot of people were kind of, bewildered after the win at the Roval. They were like, well, why on earth would you do that? Given the way AJ is very embedded in Colleague, I I feel like this was more his decision, yes, to step away, especially being a dad now. Priorities shift and change when you become a parent, and definitely the additional day, the additional time. I feel like that was probably very important to him. And just not being in the car as much to let him focus on just some other stuff. But yeah, no, definitely after he won at the Roval, and dude is bawling like a baby. I'm like, oh goodness gracious! I'm like, he's not gonna be back, is he? That felt like kids is what we call foreshadowing, and indeed it was. As for Hemrick, I was actually kind of surprised to see him get the call up because, like Philip mentioned, he had effectively been demoted once already. And I was like, okay, well, is this the way to do this? I mean, clearly, Colleague says yes. I'm not convinced personally, but hey, I've been wrong before, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. I think AJ, it's time to pack it in from a Cup Series perspective, and he's done a lot in the Cup Series, and he's gotten several wins. So he's got nothing to be ashamed of. He's had a very respectable career at the highest level in stock car racing, and not everyone is going to be a Kevin Harvick or a Jimmy Johnson and win a bunch of races or a bunch of titles, but that doesn't mean you weren't talented, and you can't say that you were able to go out there and get wins and you weren't backdooring your way into them. So from that perspective, I totally support that decision, and I think he's shown his mastery of that Xfinity car, and so I expect him to be a threat more weeks than not at that level. In terms of Hemrick, it doesn't really excite me that much. He seems like a guy that can go in there and probably take care of the equipment and bring the car home somewhere between 15th and 25th. I don't expect him to be able to go out there and get a win at like a specialty track like AJ has done at the road courses the last couple of years at the Cup level. So it's one of those moves where I get it. I'm not going to say it's a safe pick, but it's not a pick that excites me. But for that team, that might be what they need right now with AJ leaving that seat, is just to have some stability, have someone who you can rely on to take care of the equipment and maybe grow into that seat and become a threat maybe in a year or two down the line. But I don't expect them to to be in the hunt for a lot of trophies. Not a lot of trophy hunting out of them for this foreseeable future.
I mean, that's when he went qualifying. Was that the Richmond race when we went together, Art? When he was like, "No, I'm not qualifying. I'm going trophy hunting."
Yeah, and then he finished like 15th.
Yeah.
Didn't his engine like blow? I think, or he was having trouble with the transmission.
He had some kind of issue.
It's still trophy hunting. Well,
And then had to start 38th, and that didn't work out well on a track he couldn't pass. So,
well, unfortunately, that's most of the tracks nowadays.
oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah,
Yeah, the proof was in the pudding. But congratulations to AJ going back down to have some peace and quiet. I'm interested to see Daniel coming up. Excited to see what sponsors. I don't know if Poppy's coming with him or not, but I'm interested to see how all that plays out because NASCAR is not dead. We bring new money to the sport. Anywho, I had a thought about where I was going with that. I forgot. Man, it'll come back to me. Anywho, oh, speaking of not being able to pass, we tested a new gearbox in Phoenix where we saw that Advent Health Beauty. We going 4-speed racing, apparently. They had a new splitter, allegedly. I still don't have more power though, so we're fixing the wrong things. 4-speed to eliminate shifting on short tracks. Think that'll help some. That's probably a step in the right direction. Need about 120 more horsepower though, NASCAR. If you wanna get this this train moving, let the boys play and let them get some wheel spin on this corner entry and exits. I want to see them back the corners up again when a car too tight and make this thing work. But apparently there was some positivity coming out of testing in Phoenix. What are y'all's thoughts on the potential changes?
I have lots of thoughts and feelings, and
Let's go.
very few of them are positive. Okay, where do we begin? So, first of all, more power. The whole thing. If I remember correctly, and one of you can feel free to fill in the gap, but if I remember correctly, the whole idea of backing off power was of course more reliable. You're not rebuilding the engines as much. The whole point was that it's cost effective and was to lure more manufacturers. Well, that's not worked now, has it?
No.
It's been how long? And if anything, we've actually lost a manufacturer, given that Dodge buggered off 13 years ago, whenever that was. So I was like, okay, so clearly that's not working. So, and I'm not saying, we need to, be at, short tracks and these cars need to make 1,000 horsepower. That's not what I'm saying at all. But definitely, yeah, although it actually would be kind of fun the more I think about it. But yeah, certainly more power, more better. And pragmatically, I certainly understand why moving back to 4 speeds, again, on the short tracks, why that would be a good idea, help eliminate shifting and so on and so forth. Now, well, you'll tell in a second, I've been working chicanery and ergo sports car racing pretty hard because my brain hears 4-speed gearbox in a race car in 2023 and goes, absolutely not. This is why are we? No, this is not that mean where it's like go back. No, we do not need to go back. Actually, if anything, I still wish they had to give that car a 6-speed gearbox to begin with. But anyway, that's besides the point. Again, pragmatically, I understand why you would want to move to 4 speeds, but the NASCAR is a swamp sport. Part of my brain goes, let's not regress, please. But then other little aero tweaks like splitters and what have you. Again, to clean up because it's funny, we're dealing with the same thing that a lot of other categories have been dealing with a while, outwash, dirty air and what have you. So to help reduce that a little bit, I think certainly wouldn't hurt. But like you had said, there are lots of little cumulative changes, and it's not to say that they are bad necessarily. But NASCAR is being exceptionally stubborn with the horsepower of it, and I don't understand it. It's like the whole raison d'etre for knocking back the power hasn't worked. Nobody has joined. No new manufacturers have joined. So why are we still chasing these pastures? Now, I mean, granted, it is distinctly possible that they know something I don't, and maybe we're on the heels of, I don't know, what were the two common rumors, Honda and Volkswagen joining NASCAR? Maybe we're finally going to get that or something. I don't know, but given how long it's been with no interest from other manufacturers, that's just stupid. Like, more power and yesterday, please.
Yeah. The horsepower thing, they need to give up the ghost on as far as saying, I don't think it's the answer, because it is the answer at this point. Like, we've been hearing ever since they took horsepower back, and like we've said, that, oh, we're doing this for another OEM. That OEM isn't coming. We like we just said, Honda or Volkswagen. They've shown interest, but it's nothing more to me. It seems like than just a cursory glance to say, oh, we have cars in this sport, but it doesn't feel like it's anything substantial, and it's just to the point where where I used to be the person telling somebody, no, they're not putting 900 horsepower back in the cars. Just, go sit down somewhere. It's not happening again. To where it's like, well, okay, what we have now isn't working, but we need to find some sort of common ground. But my hope, with everything that they learned last week, put that in a notebook. You know, uh, if you want to use the same drivers at another test, or if you want to get another set of drivers to see if they feel that same way, you know, continue to build on it. Don't just take these notes and say, okay, well, we'll consider these things. But if you have the champion of your sport at that test and saying, oh, okay, well, this setup with this splitter, or, this, gear choice, this worked out. I like that. I think we had fun doing that. Don't just sit on that. Go ahead and say, oh, well, okay, let's see if we can get, say, a recently retired driver. Like, if you have Harvick, go and test out that package and say, oh, okay, yeah, I see what he's talking about on that. You know, that will work. And having a veteran like that and your champion come forward and say that, you'll have more drivers that'll be on board to those changes. But it all comes down to NASCAR just losing that stubborn, kind of old-fashioned way of doing things at this point, because the product, while it's good, it can be better. And I think, you'll get a lot less of these people that are chirping up and saying, oh, I used to watch it, when they went 800, 900 horsepower, and now I can't watch it because it's boring or something like that. You'll bring a few of those people back, but you'll also get new eyes on it. But that said as well too, we can't, and I'm not even sure if you guys have talked about it on the show, but we can't look past everything that NASCAR is getting ready to do, with EV and all of that. So, it's okay to have that want and need for horsepower out of your cup cars, while also still saying, oh, well, we want to concentrate on an electric future. So I just hope, with all of the things that they've learned between this next gen car and stuff of the future, that they just go ahead and adopt it. And, you know, I feel like it'll be a good thing for everybody, fans, the fan experience, and, driver happiness as well.
You know, my partners on this episode have put really thoughtful, eloquent, well put together arguments. And so I'm just going to keep mine very short. And to quote a wise man, horsepower, horsepower. I got all this polo on. I got horsepower. I don't care about none of that test. I don't need it. Don't talk to me about a splitter. Don't talk to me about the gear. Just give me some engine and let these boys and girls cook. Like, I don't care about none of that. And I don't know why you continue to try and lie to me as a fan and tell me that this splitter is suddenly going to fix this car. It's not. It might make it a little bit better, but you know what would make it a lot better? Give them 1,000 HP every weekend. That'd make it a lot better. So, whatever. Hey, if they went out there and rolled around in the desert and had a good time, God bless them, good for them. But I don't care at all about this. I don't understand this level of stubbornness. I've never seen a league try to gaslight its fans like the NASCAR has done with this issue. And until they admit their fault and just fix it, I don't have any thoughts for them other than, come on, guys, like, what are we doing here? You know, we're going to go back and change the gearbox now, the gear ratio now. So that begs my bigger question. So what part of this car are we keeping? Because I was told for 2 years this car is going to be amazing. And now we barely, 2 seasons in, and we have to change the whole thing. And it's trash everywhere except intermediates. So whatever. I rage about this car like every other week now at this point, and I'm trying not to become that person. I'm trying not to make that become a bit where I just fuss about this car, but like, whatever, dude. Play whatever splitter you want, but just give me some engine in the car, please. Like, these are race car drivers. These are the most talented people in the world at what they do. They shouldn't have to completely rely on air games and dirty air and bubbles and trying to burst the bubble. Like, give them off throttle time. Like, that shows a driver's talent, not how well they can play the dirty air game. So we'll see. I hate this car so much. If this car, it's almost Christmas, I wouldn't even give this car coal if it was a person. They'd just get nothing. I'd send them an envelope and it'd be empty if this car was a person. I'll be honest with you. That's how much I just dislike it. So moving on, Jared, take us away before I get
Now hold on that. I'm gonna bring it back. So we've gone from having like mechanics and engine builders to having engineers for this vehicle. Y'all ain't smart enough to know if you put more mechanical grip in the car, you need more horsepower to offset it. And to take that a step further, they designed this vehicle to have a hybrid powertrain. Okay, give me my battery pack and give me my power. I don't care if you push to pass it or you got to press a button on your helmet or you got to vote online to see which car gets the juice to make the push to pass. Something. If we did all of this to help make it faster, the time is now. If two OEMs have taken the money and spent it to change the body on the car 2 years into it, clearly they know that it's broken. They're trying their best to fix it. NASCAR, please. $1 billion companies and $1 million or some even $1 billion race teams have the money to spend to make their cars win races and make their product faster. Just do it. You sign the big TV deal. You know what you should do? Take $7 billion to give it to each team each year, and that'll pay for the engine blowing up. If you say 850, there's going to be some marginal reliability issues. Give them the money to help buy a new motor. Here you go, $7 million. Thank you for being a part of our charter system. Here's our thanks to you. And let's get this show on the road. Because NHRA, no problem. Funny cars making 10,000 horsepower. They don't care about the environment. Yes, they use green fuel, but it's 10,000 horsepower every Sunday. Quarter mile, let's do it. Let's go. This is NASCAR. This is America's sport. Help me. Like Kevin Hart said, help me. Help me. Help me.
Look, Denny said, "Oh, we're out here racing Ferraris." There are a lot of my Ferraris with more than 670 horsepower I can go buy off the lot. So where's all this money going? Huh? Like, the car's
The
slower.
Hellcat is $87,000 American dollars if you find one without dealer markup. and that's got 800. NASCAR, what are we doing? Invite Dodge back. Bring Dodge back. I bet you if Dodge come back, they put the Hellcat in the NASCAR race car, then we ain't gonna have no issues then.
Oh my
I'm
God,
just
shut up. I've heard enough of this bring Dodge back garbage the last couple of weeks. Be
Dodge.
quiet, Jared.
I just want y'all to bring Dodge back. Bring the Mopar.
I just want to know, like I said, they're supposed to be the best in the world, and I could go to any city in America and go buy a car with more horsepower with it. Like, come on, like that doesn't make sense. Like, do you hear yourselves?
We like what we're seeing, and you like it too.
Like no, you will not.
And I
Certain
mean,
individual.
yeah,
Go
truth be
ahead.
told, there's something to be said for the fact that perhaps mere mortals should not, if provided they have a large enough bank balance, be able to go and buy 1,000 horsepower cars, given the rate in which they are regularly wadded up. But I think that's a broader societal conversation that we need to have.
I mean, I'm looking right now. Like I just Googled it. For $100,000, I could go buy a car with as much or more horsepower, like than a cup car. Like it's not. It's don't get me wrong, because I ain't in that tax bracket to where that's no money. That's a lot of money, but like that is a feasible amount of money someone could earn in their lifetime and go buy. Like that's not absurd. So if Denny's saying like, we're spending what $300,000 a week on these cars, like what do we spend on, guys? Like you got if the gear ratio ain't worth a damn and the engine ain't worth a damn and it's not as safe as it was, what are we doing? Like you move my numbers. Like don't get me on that horse again. Like who's winning here? Like someone's getting paid for this and making out like a bandit, and I don't know who it is, but it's not the right people.
And honestly, my thing too is like, it is almost January. We shouldn't be deciding in January what we are doing for the following month. This stuff should have been decided, tested, all of that back in the summer or early in the fall. It should not have been a test 2 weeks after, or 2 or 3 weeks after the season is over, to say, oh, well, let's see. We're planning on keeping what we had last year unless you find something you like here. And it's just like, if you've heard the drivers complain for several races about, how it drives, or, even when we listen to Bubba on the radio, when he talks about, the car when you are, and that may just be a 2311 setup thing, but, when you're trying to turn it in the corner and the car wants to keep going straight, when you are hearing things like this, it's just like, it doesn't sound like anyone's having fun with this $300,000 a week car. And, let's not even get into, all of the issues they've had with injuries and stuff because of the car. But it defies logic to me that NASCAR decided, we're not going to decide on what we want to do for the following season until there's like 6 weeks left of an off season. Because I mean, where are these drivers? I mean, simulator time only does but so much. And that's why I would say that I'm frustrated still that they took away testing. I understood, some teams, they'll do, track attack or stuff like that for road courses. But it's just like, at this point, with how little they know about the car and how little practice time that they get, this isn't a situation where they can just be like, oh, okay, well, our regulations are going to change 6 weeks before, because that's, you got to rush through simulator time and, hope that, and especially now with Daytona, we're not having any form of practice, other than racing in the duels. You got to hope that everything, if they decide to go back to 4 speeds, that, everything is what it's going to be, or make sure that everybody's had simulator time. So I don't know, but it's it's a confusing time, honestly, as a fan, but also being on the inside and seeing what we all see.
I mean, can you imagine if the NBA was like, "Hey, it's August. We might raise the rim a couple inches. Y'all come shoot around and let's see if we like it or not." Can you imagine how that would go? Like,
We're going to change
that's
the game time from 48 minutes to an hour.
we might make the basketball just a couple millimeters bigger. Let's just try it out. Maybe we might do it, but we might not. But also, only like 4 of y'all can come shoot around with it. The rest of y'all just talk to your teammates. Like,
That's right. We're playing 4-on-4 basketball.
Institute
And-
the Elam ending or something.
right. And oh, by the way, the season starts in a month, and we may use these rules, but we may not use these rules. So we'll just let you know whatever we decide. Like,
By the way, Globetrotter rules are in effect.
like,
Isn't that how the in-season tournament came about anyway? Never mind. This is a NASCAR podcast. My bad. Yeah, thank y'all for helping me with that. Appreciate that. In other news, Jimmy Johnson has left the door open for him to run some more than he did last season. Looks like he wants to try out his investment in Toyota and get behind the wheel of that 84 a couple more times. Personally, I am for this. Hopefully, Jimmy gets in the car for Daytona again, so we can have some help. Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan, Steve Phelps enlist some as well for the 67 car. 10 Camrys, please. Thank you. But yeah, I'm excited to see Jimmy wanting to get busy. I like it. Do we agree? Disagree?
Oh,
Should he stick to running?
no, I think it's cool that he's back. It's gonna be so weird to see him in a Toyota, though. Oh my goodness, that breaks my brain a little bit, actually. But it'll be cool to see him drive the car. Hopefully, his run of races this season is more successful than last year because that didn't go particularly well. But yeah, I'm about it.
yeah, sorry, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm all for. We talked off air briefly about how Jimmy really didn't have the best luck last season coming in with the new car. He had the race at Coda where he spun out on the first lap and ended up killing it, and then he had some family issues as well, which kept him from doing the other race in Chicago. So for him to be able to get his full, air quotes, full schedule of dates, I think that would be great for him. This is exactly what I would want from a guy like Jimmy. This is, to throw it back a little bit, this is the kind of schedule that I would imagine like a Dale Sr., if he hadn't passed away early, doing, like coming in and just running a couple races a year at hand-picked tracks that really interest him. And so that's the sort of thing I love to see. I think if he's still got the itch, they should let him go out there as long as he wants. He could be 84 in the 84. Give him a fire suit, let him strap in it. I don't care. I think he's earned that right to go out as long as he can and as long as he wants to. So I'm hoping he has better luck this year. I really like some of the moves that he's been doing for Legacy, and I'm a Jimmy fan more now that he's retired than I was when he was active, because he's always beating Jeff Gordon the second half of his career. But I love seeing those guys out there, and I'd love to get out to a race to see him in person, because again, that's one of those guys that for me, like, I didn't appreciate as much when they were here, and then when they're gone, you're like, oh man, all right, that guy's pretty not just impactful with this sport, but like a good ambassador for the sport. So I hope that he makes a date within reasonable driving distance or flying distance where I can go see him.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Jimmy back. I believe, because I'm not sure, did he do the 500 last year? I think.
Yeah.
So it was. Now you would think I would know because I was at the 500, but that was what feels like 2 years ago now. But No, just seeing him and seeing how the race at Charlotte went, where everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong for Legacy that day. And, just seeing him just kind of existing out there, almost like the person that would say, I ain't heard no damn bell yet. But, Jimmy has earned this portion of his career where he can just pick it up whenever he wants to. He went and ran Indy to see if he could do it. That didn't have the most success, but at the same time, it was cool to see him out there. And, I feel like you could tell that itch was still there for NASCAR. And when he was announced to help with Legacy, I was super excited. And like you say, some of the moves that he's made off the track for the team, bringing in people like Matt Kenseth, kind of trying to change the culture. When everything went down in the middle of the season, he was the type of person that jumped right in the forefront and said, zero tolerance, so I'm excited to see what happens for him this season. Like you said, Art, I was not the biggest Jimmy Johnson fan when I was, in my teenage years, because, it started turning that tide where the sport went from Jeff Gordon to Jimmy being the guy, the top guy. And it's almost like, I'm tired of seeing him win, or Jeff could have had, 5, 6, 7 championships if not for the chase. But, I think it's good for NASCAR as well, because it's still a familiar face that people have heard his name, that Jimmy can, in a sense, get people to kind of tune back in and maybe have an ear on the race that week, to see what he does. But I do hope it does end a lot better than 2023 did for him behind the wheel.
I have a conspiracy. Jimmy started winning because Jeff was part owner of the 48, and Jeff wanted to get that money. He did just enough so he could get his money, but he made more with Jimmy winning.
I don't know. Art will tell you that that was never the case, because you could tell it was almost like disdain in Jeff. Like he had like some haterade running through the system.
Remember Texas? He goes, oh, 4 times upset. Yeah, no, it wasn't on site, but it's like, nah, I want to bust your ass. Like it's.
Yeah, and actually, no, wasn't that like the whole point of that thing, the meeting between Jeff and Jimmy, the milk and cookies thing?
No, milk and cookies was Jimmy and Chad.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That was Jimmy and Chad, because like they might have won 5 or 6 at that, but it was before they won the 7th. But like it might have been after 2013, I want to say. But like I don't remember this very well, but like they were just going at it on the radio, and apparently they were pretty destructive behind the scenes as well. Like they were just rams butting heads with each other. And Mr. H was like, hey, now y'all making me too much money, so y'all gonna get together and figure this out. And sure enough, they did. But yeah, no, Jeff was like, I want to beat this guy, because I feel like, I don't want to speak for him, I don't know him, but like I imagine if you're Jeff, you're like, I just won my 4th championship not that long ago, like 2003, 2004. It's like I'm still that guy, like I'm him. And then like you can say it's the rules, you can say it's the chase, but I mean a lot of that is Jimmy's talent. Like he's an all-time talent. Like they both are. Like they're both on my Mount Rushmore of drivers. But like I think the biggest thing that helped Jimmy besides that was that he had Chad. And I mean, Chad's a GOAT tier crew chief. Like he's up there with the very best as well. So like it was a perfect storm for him. And he was in one of the best seats, because as soon as he started winning, like he wasn't going to get, a back marker chassis. Like he's at HMS. So he had all of the tools around him, plus his own natural ability and talent. So yeah, I see. Now I'm going back to old me who hates Jimmy Johnson. Now that I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about 07 and 14 and whatever. All right, Jimmy. Maybe it's good he'll be in a Toyota. I won't have those memories associated with him.
And meanwhile, Mark Martin fans are the skeleton at the bottom of the ocean.
Yes,
Oh,
HMS
yeah.
Mark Martin fans.
Man, if only Joe Gibbs could get in between Cole Pern and Martin Truex Jr. and actually do something instead of wasting away a regular season championship. Dang. So I got this written down, but I don't like hearsay. So allegedly, for those of you who listen to Door Bumper Clear, they all but confirmed for him that young Noah has been assigned and signed to replace Eric Almirola in the 10 car for Stuart Haas. Now again, hearsay. I'm not saying he did nothing. But when we see the fine print in the dotted line, Noah's Ark 3 is coming. But while we're here and I brought it up, is this a good move for Tony Stewart?
Honestly, I'll say it's the move that makes, I guess, the most sense for them. In a way, there are, I guess, a few other, unproven Cup guys. Could they have, or well, yeah, I guess you could say unproven Cup guys that are down in Xfinity. They could have put Custer back up there, but I don't. I guess they don't want to mess with a good thing in this situation. But I don't honestly know what to make of it. I mean, his time at Legacy ended because of what happened, but I guess his future potential, I guess, is still there. And that's what Tony and, Gene see, in all of that. And I honestly would like to know who made the call in this situation as far as signing him. Because, he wasn't having the best time in the seat when he was, full time last year. And I think, I don't know if it was some of the hits that were happening or, it just seemed at times where it felt like he was disinterested or he wasn't having fun. And I mean, I get that because you're driving with a team that is somewhat, they showed flashes, but there were times, the beginning of the season where they were just basically dog water. They weren't, they were racing for, the 25th through 30th. And then, having parts failures or having hard accidents week after week after week, that stuff starts to take a toll on you. And it seemed like well before, the incident happened, it just seemed like he was done, and once they had announced that they were moving to Toyota and, it had already been kind of said that Toyota didn't really have him in the plans for anything. It just almost seemed like he checked out. But what would have happened the rest of the season, we're not sure. Would he have earned that seat? It's a possibility. Would he have turned it around, almost in the same way Eric did towards the end of the season? Who knows? But I think honestly, with who's left out there, Noah just made the most sense for the 10. But I guess time is only going to tell. We really haven't seen him for a full season in the next gen at all. Whether through splitting the time that he did the first year at college with everyone. Well, I take that back. He got most of that season because he was filling in for Bowman, and other situations where he was called upon because he was a Chevy, I guess, the reserve driver. But I don't know. I guess ask me after 10 races, and if this is true that he is getting the car, ask me after 10 races what I think, because at least then you've raced every type of racetrack that we're going to go to at least once. And I don't know. I might be pleasantly surprised with what he's done, but for right now, it just seems like they did what they had to do just to get a name behind the wheel.
Yeah, I don't really know. On the one hand, the exodus of drivers and sponsors from the SHR, I can't imagine that that's particularly comfortable at the moment. Um, but on the other, Noah in the seat is kind of like, eh? I don't know. You'll have to pardon the analogy. I just wrapped up before we started recording this, the latest episode of Chicanery. So my brain is very much in European racing mode. But in a lot of ways, Noah in the 42, it feels in some ways actually like when Nick DeVries was in the AlphaTauri. Just absolutely appalling, frankly. And then, of course, Nick gets, sent to the Red Bull or AlphaTauri, so I guess Italian equivalent of, whatever a gulag is. Much, and in this case, Noah did too, but well, because he's an idiot. Um, and then, of course, Carson Hocevar gets in that seat, and then suddenly the 42 looks like it actually might be kind of quick after all. But then you wonder how much of that is Carson's natural talent and how much of that was just a bit of development over the course of the season. Same thing, Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson got into the other seat at AlphaTauri, and it was, looking fairly racy, but that car had also benefited from upgrades throughout the year. And so it was actually genuinely quick by the end of the season. But it means that when you have this chopping and changing of drivers, it makes it really, really tough to gauge sort of uh, comparatively anybody's level of actual talent and ability. And that's what I'm struggling with a bit here. Because if you just take Noah's season in the 42 at face value, it was absolutely horrendous. But then when, like I said, watching Carson in that seat, and yeah, Eric in the 43, and it's like, okay, well, this car is actually kind of quick. Maybe it wasn't Noah, but then maybe it was. Like, maybe in AlphaTauri, maybe it was Nick to some extent, but maybe it wasn't. Who knows? So it makes it so difficult to accurately gauge sort of his true skill, and that's what I'm having a hard time with. So kind of like Phil, yeah, check in, first third of the season coming up when that's wrapped up. If this is indeed the case, of course. And, then I think it'll be a good gauge if he's cut material or not, because I couldn't tell you one way or another.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think it's hard. I I'm gonna speak strictly on an on-track perspective with Noah. And I would love to see a driver get at least 2 years in the Cup Series before I really want to look at their results. Um, from all the understanding of what people are saying, like that car is just so different now. And we've talked about this before, but it's so different from like the Xfinity cars. It's really hard to compare. And so you're really coming in at a disadvantage versus these Cup guys who have already had this car now for 2 seasons. Uh, I agree. Like the performance of that 42, I'll know within it was absolutely dog food. Like there's no way to mince it. But looking at it neutrally, I would have wanted him to have at least a full season before I would look at his performance, at least a full season, or preferably two. Uh, him at the 10, I mean, that doesn't seem like a match made in heaven. He doesn't really seem, well, I don't know if he really fits the mold that I think of an SHR driver. I kind of think of them as like, I don't know, like not buttoned up, but like kind of like good country boys that like don't really start stuff. And I feel like he's kind of the opposite, where like he just is known for having attention for lots of things, not just his off the track stuff, but like the beers afterwards. And I just feel like he can be a bit of a polarizing figure, whereas a lot of SHR guys outside of Harvick are kind of just there for the most part, like they in the last couple of years. So maybe this is something that he saw. This might have been maybe the only call that he got. And it was like, hey, look, I can take this 10 and get in the Cup car, or I might be racing dirt tracks for a year. And he said, I'll take that 10 car. And maybe it leads to something better for him down the road. But I don't know. It's just one of those marriages where it's like, okay, this car hasn't been good historically the last couple of years. How much of that has been the driver of the 10 car versus the 10 car mechanical speed? And then you have a driver who hasn't done well in his short stint at the Cup Series. So it's like, well, I've got two negatives here, and I don't know how, like, what's the math where it's like a negative times a negative can be a positive? Like, someone on Twitter can tell us that, but like maybe it turns into something good for him. But I kind of worry about that pairing if I'm a SHR fan. I'm guessing he somehow either found some money or they found some money from him. I'm not sure if they've announced like who the sponsors are going to be on that car, have they? But I'm curious to see who, if any, of his previous sponsors follow him. I always just think that's very fascinating when you have a little bit of a controversy. Well, what decision makers say, oh, that's not that bad, we're going to come with you? Like, is a Black Rifle Coffee say like, you know what, I can stick with this guy. He represents the morals and values of my brand well, like, is that the case? Like, I just find that very fascinating. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I mean, and all the off the track stuff we'll save for a future episode, but I think it'll be an interesting pairing. I hope it goes well, I guess, for them. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier with Hemrick, I see this as being another car that just kind of is running in the back half of the field, isn't a threat really anywhere. It's kind of just a Cup driver that races every Sunday, and that's the end of the state sentence on them. Like, that's all you can say about them.
I mean, the only thing that makes sense, if this is true, we have another episode coming if it is. Did you get him because he brings money, knowing that Josh didn't bring any money? Because I was would have thought they just sell this charter so they could have money for Josh. Because I still haven't seen a damn thing announced for the 4-car. But maybe they go, well, Noah will help offset some of that while we figure out, what to do. I would hate to see, the 4 all season run, Haas Tooling, Haas Automotive, CNC Machines, yada, yada, yada. Because I do feel like Josh Berry is talented enough to bring some sponsors to the sport. But if he ain't got it, but Tony said, it doesn't matter what you got or what you don't. You drive good and I want you. Maybe he looked at the books and was like, we got to do something. So we'll see. Again, all hearsay, all these opinions that you just heard all have a big old asterisk beside them because we don't know. We aren't in the N as of yet for industry speak, but just wanted to bring it up. And then on the flip side of that, a football game happened. Joe Gibbs brought some people with him. There was a camera around and he said, oh yeah, this guy's driving for me next year. And I'll be damned if it won't. Eric Almirola driving part-time for JGR next season. This man just failed upwards, even though he went in a lower series. And I don't understand why or how he continues to get graced with these opportunities. But you'll see Eric Almirola, I guess, defending his Sonoma win. Maybe that's one of the races he chooses. And a JGR Toyota.
I vented to this a bit when JT and I were recording this past weekend, and I told her, I said I was so annoyed when I heard that because I'm like, this dude, despite having been utterly unproductive in the 10 for the last 3 years, 4 years, he has not done anything useful. Bags a ride with JGR. I mean, yes, granted, it is part-time, but that is still not a bad ride by any stretch of the imagination. Let's be perfectly clear. And then I said, not only that, but I said, because he hasn't buggered off to retirement properly. So then, somebody gets a wild hair and the next thing you know, his ass is back in Cup. And I was beyond annoyed when I heard that. It was like right before we sat down to start recording. And so actually, I think that might have actually snuck into the latest chicanery episode, I think, but I don't remember if it did or not. But yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's like, go away. Please just go away. But I mean, no, all joking aside, I mean, I clearly Coach Gibbs sees something here. I don't know what, if I'm being perfectly honest. But clearly it's enough. Like, yeah, run a part-time schedule, pick a handful of races. He seems, and I say, team will get a wild here. To be fair, Eric seems like he's pretty done with Cup. So I don't know that he would come back even if somebody asked. Ergo the kind of, the will he won't he basically this entire season. And, we get 2 races to the end. And you're like, oh, yeah, see you later. Bye. That doesn't sound like a man that necessarily wants to hang around in Cup. But yeah, it's just wild to me that he has managed to pull this off. Like, whatever, clearly, I need to meet him and ask if, I can figure out, it's like, how did you put a few more points onto the, the luck stat? Because I need that, like, desperately. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, Eric kind of reminds me of a coworker I used to have, and I will make sure to keep them nameless. But any of my former coworkers or friends who I talked to when this gentleman worked with me knows exactly what I'm talking about. And this man was just the biggest piece of trash I ever met. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, he was just a terrible human being. He would gossip. He would try to backdoor his way into getting things that he wanted. And the thing was, everyone in the company knew it. Like, they all knew, and it wasn't a big company, but they all knew that he was terrible. And he'd go into a meeting with the head of our team or like the CEO, and they would know that he did something wrong. Like, we had evidence, like literal text evidence. And he'd come out of it with the lightest slap on the wrist, or he'd somehow come out with more internal power than he had going in the meeting. And I could never understand it. And I just chalked it up to, as morally corrupt as this man is, he's a hell of a salesman. Like, he just has like a golden tongue, and he can just spin a yarn and find a way to make himself seem in the right and just come out ahead. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that Eric Almirola is morally bankrupt like this coworker was. But I'm saying is that I think maybe he has that same skill where he's just able to upsell himself, and he somehow got in a room with Joe Gibbs. I don't know how I guess NASCAR garage ain't that big, but they somehow got together, and he just talked himself up into getting a spot. And he just maybe has that gift of gab, and maybe that's why, Smithfield stuck around with him for so long. And they were so loyal to him, and so he's just figured out what his strengths are. And I need that skill in some interviews, because he's clearly nailing it to be able to get that after his performance, to be able to come away with the ride that he did. So I'm just going to chalk it up to that skill. I'm going to try not to think that much about it. I hope that I'm not going to say I hope he has no success. I'm going to say I don't care about him. And I hope that he has a healthy season, no injuries, and he gets plenty of time with his kids. I sincerely wish that for him. But that's all I got. That's the nicest thing I can say.
Sometimes when I think of Eric Almirola, I really think of that meme of the guy like standing in front of the server closet where he has no idea like what he's doing.
Yes.
And it's not to say that Eric doesn't know what he's doing. He's won in the Cup Series and stuff, but it's almost, in a way, you could say, and it's not harsh to say in some situations that a driver is mid. Like, if you think of it, he's good on super speedways, kind of okay on intermediates, and, we rarely heard from him on short tracks. But I don't know. To me, this seems like another situation like JGR had last year. If you have sponsorship, come run with us. Like, if you think in the grand scheme of things, yeah, somebody like Myatt Snyder, who had opportunities last year, basically Myatt was running off of the, still off the strength of his time over at Jordan Anderson, and then having that, sponsor that was like, oh, okay, well, we have enough money where, you can go and run these races for a big team like Joe Gibbs Racing. Or when Trevor Bayne, he came through with his sponsors and ran races. If you think of it too, Joe Graff Jr. showing up in a JGR car. So I think this is kind of one of those opportunities where Eric has those personal services contracts where he's got that same thing that Dale Jr. has where, we'll give you enough money to run X amount of races if this is what you want to do. You just find a top flight team. And given the history, and I don't know why Eric would want to go back after he was, physically shown up on the track. Almost 15 years ago when they pulled him out of a race that he was leading, all because the sponsor wanted Denny in the car. If a company embarrasses me like that, I don't know if it's one of those situations where I can just be like, forgive or forget, because you embarrassed me pretty much on national television. And, I guess in their situation, time heals all wounds. But to me, I think it's just more of Eric has the money and the opportunity to do it more than it is. JGR is like, yeah, he's going to be a great asset, and it's not saying anything bad, but, it's just where Eric is at this point in his career where I guess he can afford to take this and say, I'm not going to run Cup full time anymore, but I'm going to do these few races a year, just to see, just to test if I still have it. And I'm one of those people also that'll say, I hope that this doesn't lead to something down the road. I don't want it to seem like I don't respect him as a race car driver, but it's just like, if you're supposed to be retiring, do the retirement thing. We can say that about Jimmy too, where it's like, if you're supposed to be retired, enjoy it. You stepped away from this. If you want to dabble in it every once in a while, it's fine too. But anytime if you're running over, 10, 11, 12 races a season, you just don't want to do it as much, but you still have that fire in you. And at some point, honestly, sometimes the fire has the burnout. So,
did you just compare 7-time champion
look, I know it's
Jimmy Johnson to Eric Almirola?
When the
I just
words started flowing, I knew it. I had that moment where it was like, and that's when he knew he effed up, as I was saying.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified that. Not for me. I just want NASCAR Twitter to know that you said that. Uncle, huh? Yeah.
Yes,
So look,
I come to you as a man with faults, and that'll be a deep drive to live.
I'm gonna keep it a stack. I better not see any announcements from Joe Gibbs Racing on any sorts of letterhead that says that he's replacing Martin Truex Jr. for the 2025 season. I bet not see it. I don't want to see it. I'm burning down NASCAR's new building in Charlotte if I do, because the media production team doesn't need to put that out there. Eric Almirola, I hope your scheduled races are around your children's planned absences from school, i.e. winter break, spring break, reading days, fall break. I don't want to see you without your kids at the racetrack. You bet not show up without them. You're supposed to be a family man. I'm sorry. You can family plan, family man. You better bring your kids.
Not the reading days.
I hadn't even considered that as an option. And now I am pissed off because now I had to think.
I bet not. That's gonna be real mad. That building real pretty too. Y'all go,
See, I didn't bring that up because actually JT had said that. And the one time that I got very annoyed, I'm like, don't you dare speak that into existence.
God, it's going to happen now. If more than one person is caught on to that idea, It's gonna
Elon Musk, I know you sold out of your flamethrowers. Your boy need another one. Holla at me.
What happened to the first one?
So they sold out really, really, really fast because Elon is one of those things he just made. Didn't think anybody would buy it. It sold out in 30 minutes, and it hasn't had another rerun. So I need another run so I can partake. You know, y'all seen the movie Firestarter with the eyes and the girl starting the fires? I don't have that gift, but buildings will be burned if I hear that news. I promise you. I will not stand for it. I will not. So disrespectful. Don't do that.
We here, Victor Lane Vibes, do not endorse.
I came up with a disclaimer. You disclaimer me? That's my disclaimer. I'll say it.
The previous
We don't
statement,
condone violence on this show. I'm speaking as a passionate race fan. I will not burn down any buildings, but I will on Call of Duty.
I just want to know, where does arson fall on the violence spectrum?
As a former firefighter, it's very high on the list. It's definitely
that's even worse. You
your
know
ass
the
going
tricks.
to jail. You going to jail.
You know the tricks. You know the weak points of the building.
Water saves all. Water saves all.
all.
Water saves everything.
That's for.
They said the call's coming from inside the house, boys.
We good, bruh. We good. We good. I would really, especially after all the talent that was in the All-Star car for them. Ryan Truex is trying his hardest to get a full-time Cup seat. Allegedly, Sheldon Creed's going full-time to JGR. They're going to run out of cars unless they have enough money to field 4 full-time cars and a 5th All-Star vehicle. Maybe that's an option. But it just makes me wonder, is Eric taking an opportunity from somebody else because he won't stay his ass home and be a family man? That's the conundrum that I'm in. Don't do it. Reconsider. Don't even be sure, Eric Almirola. Just reconsider.
Don't read any literature on the subject.
Make smart choices. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all we got for this spontaneous bad choice of words.
See, man, can't help it.
Ending prematurely.
That was the most Freudian slip we've had on the show.
It's the off season. You can't hold me to any of this.
This is your conscience speaking.
But yeah, this is cool. Appreciate you, Phil, for dropping by. You should come by more. We have there's more stuff coming. We're not done yet. I promised you guys off-season content. We got some more stuff. We got some more things we want to try. Just stay tuned to the Twitter page, Facebook, Instagram. I need to do better at Threads. I'm not that well versed in Threads. The bots are starting to happen there too, y'all. Just so you're aware. It's making me
even
weary.
worse on Blue Sky.
It's making me weary. I made the Blue Sky account for the pod, and I haven't touched it, honestly.
Blue Sky is the social media equivalent of like the deep cuts on an album. Like, you got to be a real fan to roll through.
That's the deluxe edition.
You listen to that thing back to back to front, because I'm trying not to drag us further, but I got all 3 of them, and I'm like, bro, I can't.
It's too much. Too much.
Y'all out there like Phil that be posting all 3 of them. Y'all better men and women than me, because I ain't got the juice for that.
Elon just needs to apologize for his transgressions and just bring everybody back to X, because I can't do it.
It's too
Bring
much.
him home.
I'm tired. I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired, boss.
I can't remember who I have to be on what platform.
That's the problem.
That's tired, boss.
Multiple personality. It's hard to keep straight now. That's how we really got to end now. We about to get folks in trouble.
Man, hey, look, I appreciate y'all for listening. Shout out to Eastside Roasters. There's a surprise coming. The vibes is coming.
Cooking.
Quite literally cooking.
Yes.
Them beans.
Yes, I should have some more information on that here fairly shortly. Maybe not the next time we gather. Our next time the listeners gather. We will discuss this amongst ourselves off mic, but yep, that's coming. Just time. It's been, well, everything is happening all at once. And so the Victory Lane Vibes blend got shuffled back a little bit while we took care of some slightly more pressing issues. But no, so we should have some information out on that. And to the folks who reached out for some tester bags, I did see that, and I have noted that down accordingly. So I guess in a week's time or so, you will start hearing from me about that. But anyway, close us out, Jarrett.
With that, like, comment, subscribe, pay attention to X. We've gotten a lot funnier with engaging with our listeners. If you listen to this show, just be aware of the socials, mainly Twitter. Announcements are coming. Maybe prizes, maybe giveaways, maybe race tickets. Maybe you can wear a Victory Lane Vibes garment of clothing. But we appreciate y'all for listening. Thank you for sticking with us. Catch y'all next time. Peace.
See ya.
See y'all.